very often people think of oppression is bad for the oppressed people, and that's true. I want to raise the idea that oppression is bad for the collective intelligence of a group, and consequently of any collective wisdom it might be able to generate, because the collective intelligence depends on the different perspectives of different information. We're trying to cover a lot of ground when we make a decision, when we're looking at a situation, we're trying to resolve a conflict, whatever, we're trying to take into account what needs to be taken into account. And if we are silencing different voices that are, people are seeing parts of the puzzle, and we're keeping them shut up, keeping them sidelined, that part of the puzzle is not accessible to us. And therefore we miss the bigger picture through which we could create a smarter and wiser solution to whatever it is we're working on. So oppression, silencing diversity, and undermining collective intelligence, that's the most significant part of oppression when we're doing, the significance of oppression when we're doing wise democracy designs. So we want to have individuals and groups be free to manifest who they are, to say what they see, what they feel, to express their needs, to engage with others freely in order to put their piece of the puzzle into the larger project of generating long-term collective quality of life, which is our wise democracy goal. Our wise democracy purpose is to generate long-term collective quality of life, and we can't get our unity. We can't get a functional, wise unity by excluding people and views, perspectives, ideas that we don't want. We need to be biased towards inclusion, biased towards welcoming, biased towards bringing people and ideas together and doing something creatively with all that, which is covered specifically in another pattern, in this pattern language. But civil rights is a legal concept. It is a legal application of valuing diversity and voices. And so the legally binding Bill of Rights and things like that, which says, we need to have these voices present, and we're going to make sure that that happens with our laws. That's a fundamental kind of minimum part of it. But the other part is our democracy is vibrant and effective to the extent we are productively engaging these different voices, perspectives, gifts in our ongoing collective enterprise. So we defend it not just because it's legal and just because it's fair. We defend it because that's who we are. We believe in who we are collectively as a democratic society, as a democratic culture. And this is an essential piece of it. We don't want this violated. And also as citizens, we don't want those other people to be oppressed, and we don't want to be oppressed either. And we take action about both of those to ensure that whatever rights our society has agreed on, and there would be, we probably, if we were doing a constitution based on wise democracy, we would probably expand the rights that are deserved by and possessed by everybody in a wise democratic society, civil society. But whatever those rights are, we defend them regardless. Even if we disagree with people, we defend their right to be heard. And the U.S. Bill of Rights was one of the first such statements, and inspired many other Many other people do that. It is very interesting that the Bill of Rights was not part of the original Constitution of the United States. There were several states that said, we will not ratify the Constitution unless it has a Bill of Rights. So the Bill of Rights was created. On a broader scale, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is another statement, official statement, that has been endorsed by the United Nations, and is quite good and interesting. The fact of the networks of NGOs, there's many non-governmental organizations, nonprofits, public service organizations that are acting specifically in the realm of human rights, civil rights. But the fact that they exist, the fact that they're functioning, networking together, working for change and overseeing, being watchdogs for, they themselves are an expression of civil rights. They are being agents of change, powers within the society, associations that people who care about certain things can gather together in. So, they manifest the civil rights even as some small percentage of them are actively engaged in ensuring people's rights. Unions are another example of saying, we demand. There's against the powers that be, including the power of majoritarian power. It's saying, we demand that our needs be taken into account, our voices be taken into account. And unions rose up in response to the overwhelming power of corporations and their ability to control what happens in the government. The unions grew up as a countervailing force for that, to ensure the rights of workers. The American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, is an interesting one in the United States. One of their most famous cases was defending the right of Nazis to have a demonstration in Chicago. And they disagree up and down with everything the Nazis stand for, and yet the right of Nazis to express themselves as part of the ongoing dialogue in American political culture, they acted in defense of the Nazis. And there were a bunch of people who quit the ACLU, and the ACLU did that because they said the ACLU was supporting Nazis. And it was like, the ACLU, for me, the ACLU kind of embodies this defense, regardless of whether, there's a saying, I disagree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. I can't remember where that comes from, but I grew up with that phrase. And that energy, the ACLU embodies. And there's another organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center, which acts against oppressive forces, people who are, it's like the Ku Klux Klan, who are actively engaged in depriving Black people of their civil rights and of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the Southern Poverty Law Center exposes and takes organizations and individuals who are trying to oppress others to court. So they're an interesting kind of energy. It's somewhat different from the ACLU, but it's definitely both within the field of civil rights. And the idea of the whole world of nonviolent action, and the technologies of nonviolent action, technologies of community organizing, where there's the capacity of ordinary people to demand that their interests, their needs, their voices, their perspectives be taken seriously, that they have power. And so there's a funny way nonviolence is if there's a lack of civil rights in a situation, the technology of nonviolence, which Gene Sharp, as a historian, has studied many different approaches to nonviolence and has developed manuals for overthrowing a dictatorship, or making your country unconquerable, et cetera, all from a nonviolence perspective. That empowering information is there to ensure civil rights when they are not being granted by the powers that be. So there's a whole culture around civil rights. It's not just the Bill of Rights. There's lots of stuff that go into ensuring the reality of civil rights within the legal space for engagement, the cultural space for engagement in civil society.